Hello everybody and welcome back to Girl Talk, episode 20. And obviously I am by myself. Hannah unfortunately isn't very well, so I thought I would film this one solo. I'm hoping she'll be better ASAP so that we can get back to doing the videos together. But this week you've just got me, as I didn't want you guys to miss out, and obviously I love spooky season, so we're going to be carrying on and doing a little bit of true crime. I had so much response in terms of wanting us to do some more true crime. So as I'm by myself this week, I thought I'd cover my first ever case. So I'm super excited because I've never done this before, so you might have to bear with me. So go and grab yourselves a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink, get some snacks and get comfy, get cozy, and meet me back here. So before I start the case that I'm going to be covering, I just want to start by saying that everything I've found online, so if anything is incorrect or you don't feel that I've done it justice, then I'm really sorry. This is my first ever case. I don't mean any harm by it, so obviously just please bear with me and we will get straight to it. The case that I'm going to be covering today is about the Liske family massacre, which happened on October 31st, Halloween 2010. In North Ohio, on the borders of one of America's largest lakes, the aptly named Lake Erie, today's case takes place. In the Liske family home lived William Liske, his wife, Susan Liske, and their three sons, Devon, Derek, Griffin, children from Susan's previous marriage, and William Liske Jr., a son from William's previous marriage. It's going to get a little bit confusing because he has the same name as his father, but he is known as BJ. So I might be referring to him as William Jr. or BJ throughout this case. At a glance, the Liske family would appear to be a very happy one, but like most families, it's not without their secrets. William Jr. was an angry child. He used to lash out a lot. He would get in trouble at school, and when he was 15, William, his father, met Susan. They worked at the same place and they fell in love. They later got married in 2001. William Jr. just had some hatred towards his stepmother. He just couldn't get on with her. He felt like she was intruding on their family and taking his dad away from him, which obviously is common with divorced families and children growing up in that situation. But William just took it extra hard. He just really couldn't get on with her. The following year, a call to law enforcement was made due to William Jr. threatening to harm himself. He became more and more reckless and daring in his behaviours. He was really going off the rails. Things began to spiral out of control with his behaviour. He was becoming a danger to himself, more daring. He was threatening to harm himself. So in 2004, when he's just 17 years old, he even hit his stepmother so hard in the chest that they had to press charges of assault. Worries of his mental health were increasing at this time, as was the disdain and the hatred for his stepmother. Just 2 months after this incident, they had another heated argument. He hit her with a coffee mug. She then tried to press charges again. However, following a mental health evaluation, William Jr. was deemed unfit and he was then diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. This resulted in his father having to remove him from the family home, which would have been obviously devastating for his father. He was then placed in a group mental health facility. Although he was now getting the help that he so desperately needed, he was still a risk and a danger to those around him. He got into trouble with the law 3 times during this stay, one of those being a brawl. When he returns to the family home, things were no better, unfortunately, for the family atmosphere and for William Jr. himself. In the autumn of 2004, when he was now 18, Susan was just taking a shower when William Jr. attempted to attack her whilst she was in the shower, when she was obviously in a very vulnerable state. She managed to stop him, but she was traumatised. After this, his father was understandably very angry, so he kicked him out. And obviously, William Jr. was now an adult, so had to kind of fend for himself. This would have obviously been a really strange and awful situation that his father had been put in, but what could he do? He was now attacking his wife, and she was very, very scared. He grew apart from the family, understandably. A few years would pass, and he was still treated for his mental health condition. He was on medication, and his father was still trying to help him. He was then deemed a danger to himself and others, and he was trying to be hospitalised, but his dad actually stepped in and applied to look after him. As he was now an adult, he wasn't hospitalised, he was placed in a facility where his dad used to go and see him, and he could come out so he could go and stay with the family, which was obviously very difficult for the family. When he was staying with the family, he was also suspected of stealing local pets, as there was a lot of local pets going missing, which we obviously know is part of the McDonald's triad, which is a major red flag to becoming a serial killer. In an effort to keep him occupied, his dad used to take him away to a family cabin, which was 170 miles away, for long weekends. So they would go hunting, fishing, and generally spend time with each other, which would in turn take the pressure off his wife and the other sons in the household. Unfortunately for William Liske Jr., his mental health was deteriorating, although his behaviour was seemingly okay, and he was kind of kept an eye on, essentially. But fast forward to October 31st, 2010, with everyone having Halloween plans on their minds, decorated houses, a lot of hustle and bustle, pumpkins carved. It was 9:30 a.m. on Halloween day when Devon, the stepbrother, returns to the family home. He'd been at his biological dad's, for the night. It was a Sunday. He went straight to his room to change, as he had church choir. So even though it was Halloween, he was still busy with his church commitments. He went back down towards the front door, but then he bumped into William Jr., which was odd, seeing as he wasn't usually allowed in the house alone. He also asked a lot of questions, which again was odd because normally he kept himself to himself. He had a kind of strange demeanour where he just didn't want to talk to anyone, and this was really odd that he was so seemingly interested in his stepbrother's dad. He even seemed kind of happy to talk to him as well, which was again weird. He carried on to church and he went about his day. He got home in the early afternoon. William Jr. had gone. He went straight upstairs to play video games, assuming everyone else was busy in the house. A few hours later, he emerged from his room to go downstairs to get a drink. He thought it was quiet, but it was a Sunday, so maybe everyone was just busy doing their own thing. But he started to think, actually, it's too quiet. It's never this quiet in the house. So he went about to find his mum and his stepdad, only to discover that they were still in bed. But by this time, it was early evening and it was growing dark outside, so this was very, very strange. Surely they wouldn't have gone to bed this early, and they definitely wouldn't have been in bed all day. As he approached their bedroom, where he saw that they were still in bed, he saw his mum's foot poking out of the covers, and it was pulled over their heads. He walked up to the bed, calling out her name, but she didn't answer. This was very strange, so he went to slowly pull the covers away. As he did this, there revealed a lot of red, which seemed to be blood, over the pillows and around the bed area. He thought maybe someone's trying to pull a prank on him. Perhaps this is just some joke, because obviously it is Halloween and they have a good sense of humour in his family. They weren't shy to taking things lightly, making jokes in the house and things like that. So he thought, oh, maybe they're just pulling a prank on me, a Halloween prank. Once he realised the amount of blood and the fact that they were not moving at all or responding to him, he screamed. He ran out of the house, not wanting to look around further. He did not want to be in there on his own. In his panic, he called his Aunt Laurie, who then alerted 911. Later, authorities arrived, revealing the gruesome scene and the bodies of Susan, William, and Derek. So William, the father, had been shot 5 times in the face. He was still positioned in bed, the way they assumed he had fallen asleep. But Susan had been shot 3 times in the head. She looked like she had been moved, which they later found out that she had. She'd also tragically been assaulted after her death. A locked door led to Derek, where he was found, unfortunately, in bed. With blunt force trauma to the head, they found a bloody claw hammer. One by one, they had been murdered. So first it had been the father, later Derek, and then lastly Susan. One by one, they had been murdered. They also found muddy footprints leading up to an outdoor pond. They thought maybe the gun was in there, but after it had been drained, they found that that wasn't the case. Neighbours had said they heard gunshots around 6:30 a.m, but this was kind of normal because they were in a rural area with a lot of farmland, so this wasn't unusual. All of this meant that when Devon had come home in the morning and in the afternoon, his family had already been murdered, which meant that he had gone upstairs, got changed, left, and run into his stepbrother as well and had a conversation, all while his family had been murdered. They were all dead in their rooms and in their beds. He also then obviously went back, played video games for hours, not knowing that on the other side of the walls, his family lay dead in their beds. It's just so sad. He then thought back to the weird conversation that he'd had with his stepbrother William, who normally didn't really talk, and he almost seemed chatty and happy, and asking him when he'd be home and all these different questions, which he thought was really unusual. So when he thought back to it, obviously he told the police. And his Aunt Laurie had already informed 911 about the history and the mental history of the stepbrother William Jr. So they were already lining him up to be the top suspect. But where is William Jr.? This is really strange. So a car was actually missing from the house. He came to be obviously the prime suspect. He was actually found at the cabin that the family had 170 miles away. He was then charged for one murder just so that they could keep him in custody and do full interviews and checks and everything on him. After the full investigation, a month later, he was then charged with 6 counts of murder. He was obviously worried because the death penalty was a big possibility. He pleaded not guilty, but with the prospect of the death penalty potentially looming over him, he actually changed his plea to guilty. But he did a plea bargain where he said if the death penalty was completely taken out of the picture, he would plead guilty for 3 charges of aggravated murder. So in exchange, they agreed and they removed the possibility of the death penalty. This was all accepted and he got 3 life sentences without parole. At the sentencing, he actually apologised. He was blaming his mental health condition and also Satan for what he did to his family. He was then moved to a correctional centre to live out the rest of his life sentences. However, the death penalty finally found him, as in March 2015, 29 years old, William Jr. was found dead in his room. It was from a self-inflicted wound. It seems he had decided to take his own life and not live with the consequences of what he did. So, despite the love of his father and him supporting him at every stage of his life, through his mental health, through all of his struggles, and even supporting him through the way that he treated his wife, he couldn't help him, unfortunately. And I don't think a lot personally could have been done, really. He seemed to just fall at every hurdle. So, in conclusion, his life and his family's lives all ended at the hands of William Liske Jr. So this was definitely a different style of video, guys. I don't know how well I did. I feel like that was quite quick, even with the amount of research that I did and everything I found on this case. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. So you'll have to let me know what you thought of this case, what you thought of me covering a true crime case, and if you love true crime, you love everything Girl Talk as well, obviously make sure you subscribe. You can also still enter the giveaway to win a Body Shop advent calendar, so if you are in the UK, please enter that. Like I said, make sure you subscribe, give this video a massive thumbs up, and I'm hoping that Hannah will be all better for next week and she'll be joining me back here for, I think, the last week of spooky season. So I really hope you are enjoying it. Let me know down below. Take care. Love you. Bye.